This video is brought to you by Raindrop Pro Gutter Guards.
Welcome back to Morning Brew with the Homeowners. Today we're talking about negative reviews and what happens when contractor or homeowner sues each other for the negative review. Clay has crazy story for us. Clay, what's going on in the next one?
This one all started when Vanessa Hamilton filed a complaint against her contractor with the California Licensing Board. Next, she goes on Yelp and her blog and starts trashing the guy. She accused the owner of quote unquote hard fraud, which I'm sure we'll talk about that here in just a minute, saying he caused unnecessary damage to her home. And the contractor then sued for libel. Libel and slander are two different ones. You know, libel being written, slander being spoken, right? Hamilton argued her posts were protected by litigation privilege, but the judge disagreed. Posting online isn't the same as making claims in court documents or speaking to the state's contractors board. The fraud claims were also provably false, not just opinions. That quote unquote unnecessary damage was actually needed to bring the home up to code. So the contractor won that round, but ultimately the case fizzled out. After 3 years in court, it was voluntarily dismissed with no judgment. And as for the original license board complaint, the contractor did get disciplinary action, but ultimately kept his license.
Wow, what a story. I want to react to it. First and foremost, I absolutely hate Yelp. Did you know that Yelp has 2-star reviews on Yelp? You know that you're like, honestly, if you go on Yelp, there's a Yelp account and they have 2 stars. Like, business owners hate Yelp with passion because Yelp has the worst algorithm of, like, they suppress good reviews. They usually show the bad ones. And usually what happens, you know, the Yelpers, people who use Yelp all the time, they'll write up a whole bunch of 1-star reviews and it's usually stay. And then if you ask your friends like, hey, I got several 1-star reviews, can you help me with a review? If you go and create account, Yelp will be like, hey, it's a new account, does not count, we're not going to show it, we'll filter it out. So I just, for the business owners, we all hate Yelp, but I'll just start there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the personality, Yelp started with like this good idea of like early internet, like people want to hear what other people's results are. Right now we have TikTok for that, you have YouTube for that, you have like, personalities that'll post actual videos of them. Now the person that Yelp attracts is typically the person that just wants to be angry and wants to be heard and just wants, complain about stuff, right? I haven't heard anyone I know say, oh yeah, I always leave great Yelp reviews. I make sure like somewhere it's good service is a good Yelp review, right? No, it's good on Facebook, it's good on everywhere else, but no one ever goes to Yelp to write a good review. It's kind of like the BBB in that sense, right? It only attracts the negative, and that's where you go and you want to write a negative review. And I think for homeowners, they have to remember that too. When you go look, if you want to see the worst of a contractor, check BBB and Yelp. If you want to see all the great customers though, which is probably 100 times as many, check Google, check Facebook.
Absolutely. I love what she did here. So if you follow the storyline, she filed a complaint against her contractor with the California License Board. And what they did, like probably nothing. Who cares? Who cares, right? Nobody knows where to find those complaints. If you go to Minneapolis Department of Labor, file a complaint against contractor, nothing, right? But then she starts trashing him on Yelp in her blog. And because that media is very, very powerful. I actually tell people all the time, I tell contractors all the time, if you have dispute with someone and you know you're in the right, don't be afraid to take it to social media. That public opinion, that negative review, especially if you're in a media company, and every single business is a media company. I'm a media company, you're a media company, you Clay a media company, everyone is a media company. So you don't need CNN or Fox News to talk about you. You can talk, like, as a matter of fact, YouTube is free, Facebook is free, the story get picked up all the time. If you go and honestly share your opinion, how many times we've heard a story that's just unfair and people just wanted to root for you, share, it spreads like a wildfire, right? Like if you do something stupid as a business owner, you're gonna get canceled. And rightfully so. Like if you're doing something shady and people talk about you, people will pick it up. So
going to a baseball game with your head of HR when your wife's home. Yeah. People pick up on it. It spreads like wildfire, right? On this one, they came back and, the fraud claims were provably false, not just opinions. That unnecessary damage was actually needed to bring the home up to code. As a contractor, when you look at this, does this make you think, hey, I should have, been more preemptive. I should have explained to the homeowner what we were doing to their roof, what we had to cut into, right? You'll see this a lot of times, a lot of Minneapolis homes where they have stucco, right? Where the rake of the roof or the round of the roof runs into like a dormer that's stucco. You'll see them cut in, but now they've, rather than, taking the stucco and actually, redashing or whatever, they just cut in a riglet type, a counter flashing on top of it. And it's this very hideous 6-inch piece of metal. It's just not a good look, but it's the way they're doing it. But if they don't tell the homeowner ahead of time, is that on them? Or is it one of those, like, you can try to tell homeowners, but ultimately you're speaking gibberish. They probably aren't going to connect anyways. They probably don't care. They just want to know it's going to be pretty. So do you think on this case, the contractor, because it was proven to have to be done by code, he should have been preemptive about it? Or it's like, this is just what happens in construction when homeowners don't understand what has to be done?
I think Go ahead.
I got to take on that. I mean, you guys know my background. I come from a sales training background, and sales is really education, right? Like we're trying to influence people's decision making process. But if you're a good actor, you're doing it in the spirit of them having a better understanding of what's going to happen on a job. And I think many consumers, many homeowners think when they hire somebody to do a roof, well, you're going to take the roof off and you're going to put the roof back on, right? Like how complicated can it be? And Sam's example about counterflashing is a great example of one of the probably dozen different things that are somewhat detail oriented in a roofing restoration project, that the sales approach should include some education around these things. Now, whether people remember everything that you told them, I mean, that could be influenced by approach too. You should show them these things. You should do your best to educate them in a memorable way so that they have the clearest understanding they can about what's going to be done on their home. And that can lessen the likelihood that these disputes happen. So I'll always be the one to advocate and say, contractors, please do your best to educate through your sales approach your homeowners, your customers, so that they are more likely to understand what's going to happen, and they're less likely to get a bad result at the end.
Yeah, I agree.
Tell people what you're going to do. Show them.
Show them. Doing it on the front end's always better, right? You can go in after the fact once, but by the time you get to that homeowner's house the next day, same day, and they're pissed off, they have this whole story in their head, why you did it, you didn't need to do it, right? It's all about getting to it, to Clay's point, proactively and being on the front end. It should be part of the sales. It should be, especially, I think a lot of reps run around and don't understand construction. I think more companies should spend time teaching the reps on what the hands-on looks like, what type of things happen, right? The stucco and other stuff like that, where it's like you need to be able to, as a sales rep, communicate that to the homeowner. You're their point of contact. And too many sales reps, especially in this industry, got into, I'm just here to sell. I'm not here to be this customer support and teach them all these things. But it's really a critical part to make sure it's on the front end of your process.
Well, and Sam, Dimitri, how many roofing sales reps have we heard of in companies over the years where their training program is, here's a stack of contracts, go out and sign some people up. We were working this week on our sales training program for onboarding new hires, and part of that program involves going to job sites and actually watching the build process. Watch a roof get torn off and put back on for not just a couple of hours, like a couple of days, actually on the job site. Spend time with the job site supervisors. Actually experience and learn about construction so that you have some idea about these jobs that you're going to be selling that are, it's very meaningful to people. Your roof is it protects your greatest asset, and everything that you own and everyone that you love is underneath that roof. We need to be training our people to be professionals so that they can professionally communicate these things to homeowners, and it doesn't happen in a day. Like you have to spend time with people to get them knowledgeable and get them educated.
Luckily I started with a company that was good, and actually some backstory, Clay was one of my very first sales trainers years and years and years ago. Wow. And taught me a lot of what I know actually. And that was a huge part of it, was that front end and getting the homeowner to understand everything, going through it all on the front end. And, I thought that was normal. When I came in the industry, that was just, I thought that's what every company did. And every time I'd go to a company, they'd look at me like I'm this, like the Wizard of Oz, like there's some magical thing. And I'm like, you don't know all this? Like, how are you going around? And it really is what the barrier of entry and what the expectation is. It's far lower than it should be.
I want to give advice to both homeowners and the contractor. So in case of dispute, remember this, we are all media companies, and usually a person with a bigger following will have all leverage in the world. Another person with less following will feel intimidating. In this case, contractor, I see him. The lady has a blog. When your customer has a blog and she writes about you, it's intimidating. I remember I was one of the highest rated contractors on Angie's List, 750 reviews at the end. But first 60 was straight A plus, 60. And then I received 1-star review. I was 30 minutes late, stuck in traffic, called the homeowner several times, and she wrote me 1-star review. I'm pretty sure I lost few nights of sleep over it. I was devastated. I did not feel like I earned it, right? So you will feel beat up if someone not only writes you a review, article, make a video about you, right? But remember this, you are also a media company. Do not be intimidated. The best thing that this contractor could do is to turn on his phone and say, hey, I received this blog. Here's my answer. Here's my story. Share your intentions. What happened? And if you messed up, just say, you know what, I was wrong here. I should not do this. But here's the full story. And let the audience to vote who they like more. So if you're the homeowner, and our next story is about couple who got sued by a roofer for $100,000. If you're the victim here and someone is suing you for damages over the reviews and stuff, all you can do is go share your story. Hey guys, I think this is not fair. This is what I'm dealing with. What do you think? Right? And then the contractor will share his story. Do you remember what's his name? Depp. The
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. In the court divorce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So people were not actually siding with her; they were siding with him, and she did all the talking. Right? Sometimes you don't have to say much, but you have to defend yourself. If someone is attacking you, writing reviews, go. YouTube is free. Facebook is free. You can make one TikTok video and go viral because someone is bad mouthing you. Like, you can go and create as many videos about me as you want. I will always answer. I'm not going to run away from it. I will own my stuff, my mistakes, and I will always come out at the top. Do you guys agree?
I agree.
I totally agree. The Dmitry Lipinski School of Conflict Resolution. Put it out there to the public. Let the people decide.
Love it. And when we come back, we have one last story, the craziest one today. A roofer sues couple for $100,000 over one bad review. I remember that story really well. Can't wait to share it with you. Don't go anywhere.
Before Job Nimbus, we were a contractor that used paper files for everything.
We were trying to work in Excel. We had things handwritten on scraps of paper, napkins, text messages. It was all over the place.
You would not believe this, but my desk used to be piled in papers left and right.
Now that we have Job Nimbus implemented into the company, it's day and night difference in our processes.
So now our guys are able to sign contracts right there with the customer on their phone, automatically uploads into Job Nimbus.
And I can take pictures in the field if I need to. I can keep track of all my contact information. I can successfully and succinctly move somebody through the whole process without being lost and without being confused.
I feel like it gives us the tools to grow. Like before it was like we want to grow, but we don't even have a process to teach anybody. So now we actually have a path with it.
I would be completely lost if we hadn't found Job Nimbus.
And we are back with the last story for today. Thank you for sticking out with us today. And the last story is a roofer sues couple for over $100,000 over one bad review. Couple in Washington called a roofer hired by their landlord to ask questions about repairs. After they wrote 1-star review saying the receptionist was rude, the contractor hit back hard. Executive Roof Services, ERS, sued the couple for defamation and interference with business, asking for $112,000 plus $28,000 a week. ERS claimed the review wasn't true and a couple was trying to pressure them into releasing a job report they weren't entitled to because they were not homeowners. The couple fought back, raising money online for a lawyer. The case dragged on for a year before ending quietly. Both sides signed a deal and walked away with no fees or costs. The court dismissed the case with no judgment. I remember the story really well. We covered it a couple of years ago as it happens on our YouTube channel. We published the story on Facebook, and it was one of the most polarizing stories because so many contractors agreed with the contractor because of the fact that they were not homeowners and they were not entitled to information, but they were rude. And my argument was, listen, if you work in a house and there are people living there, all the rules of customer service apply. You don't get to just treat people the way you want to treat them, like be rude or whatever. If they ask you something, it's, if you come late, if you just have to be a decent person to anyone. And if they have experience with it, even though they're not paying the money, they still can write you a review. I mean, you can write a review about contractors driving bad in your neighborhood. We get it all the time. Like,
It's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
Made
guys
a
think?
mess in the neighbor's yard that blew into your yard, and
You get a review. Loud music pumping up, right? You don't have to be a customer to write a review of your experience. But this story also backfired big time, because what they did, to my point earlier, they did call the news. They did go public. So they acted as a media company. And what happened? Nothing good happened to the contractor. So once news spread out, people start boycotting the contractor. They were getting tons of one-star reviews because of their sin. And pretty much they were bullying the story. The only reason they were suing for $100,000 because they want to punish them. They knew they don't have money. And just, if you don't remove the review, you're going to pay us $100,000 because we can. We can afford a lawyer. You cannot afford a lawyer. Let's go. And this couple went to news and also start raising money for the lawyer, and people were backing them up. So the contractor have to stop because they were losing too much. I would say the loser in this story, in my opinion, is a contractor.
I mean, back to Clay's point earlier, is are you giving it air or letting it deflate? I believe was the term he used, right? And to this point, if someone leaves you a 1-star review, to go back after him and sue him for $100,000 or any amount, really, like, as a contractor, what's the point of that, right? Like, you go look at 90% of the companies you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Restaurants, property management companies, mortgage companies, electrical companies, trash companies, they all have terrible reviews. But you never checked before signing on their service. Why? It was limited choices, there wasn't a lot around, or it just, they're a big enough name. You're like, oh, I trust them, even if they do something wrong, they'll fix. I get people are mad at them. Do you think we as not my contract, but contractors as a whole give too much validity to these reviews? Do you think they care about them more than they should, and they're giving them more air than they should?
I think so. I think we overthink. Like, I think a lot of contractors take it personal. Like, nobody's perfect. If you ever stayed at hotels, resorts, sometimes I'm curious myself. You go to like 5-star reviews, like nicest hotel ever, like, true, like Ritz-Carlton of the world, right? And you'll see them 4.5, 4.4. Like, I'm part of a Marriott Club, and the highest I see these days, 4.4, 4.3. I ask myself, who in the world would write this hotel bad review? It's as nice as they get, right? But there are people who will complain about anything. So I think if you maintain decent enough and also a reputation, you'll be good. But also, nobody has a 5-star reviews. No one. Like, the best services out there, the best hotels, the best of everything. Nobody has 5-star reviews, and contractors will not have 5-star reviews. So I think our egos are very big in the roofing industry. If you're a roofer and you run, I don't know, $20-30 million company, you're probably thinking you're better than others, you're richer than others, you're kind of above the law, and who are you to give me 1-star review? So I think a lot of them take it personally and start claiming that it's costing them money.
Yeah, I mean, if they would have just taken the feedback for what it was, maybe maybe the person was being unreasonable with the 1-star review, but had they just said, all right, our receptionist didn't treat them the way they want to be treated, let's coach up the receptionist. And that's like one of my takeaways is that receptionist is the first point of contact. It has a huge influence, that interaction, over how people feel with dealing with that company. But if they would have just coached up the receptionist and moved on, it would have been so much better for the company. The fact that they did give it air and they go sue them for a ton of money and it blows up, goes online, and it absolutely was the poor choice to pick that fight over something so small. You want to be reasonable. You would hope that somebody wouldn't write a 1-star review over something like the receptionist. It's like, you walk into a restaurant and the door squeaked when I walked in. So 1-star review. I mean, you would hope people would be more reasonable, but man, as the business owner, just take the feedback and like try to get a little bit better and move the heck on, and don't wind up on the radio.
But I also would argue that those reviews don't really have value. They don't create damage because people read 1-star reviews, and your response oftentimes matters more than the review itself. So if you receive 1-star review, let's say, price were too high. So unfortunately, yes, we're never the cheapest bid. We do quality work. We buy expensive materials. sorry it was not affordable to you, right? People will read the original review. And, especially in this case, if you have a review about reception, it's not like your work is bad or whatever. 1 star is 1 star. People are going to read it because people are good judges of characters. And they're like, all right, we have a complainer here. Like, it's not going to affect their decision of hiring that company. That's my point.
Right. People do read reviews more critically, I think, than they used to. I think part of the reason they're reading critically is to see, like, is this a real review? Is this a real person?
Or fake. That's another big problem in the industry today. So many fake reviews.
I know. And in the AI age, it's like it's really hard to decipher and discern what's real and what's not. So I think that landscape is changing. Dimitri, you mentioned that like the reviews don't seem to have quite as big of an impact as they once did. I think that's because people used to really be able to rely on reviews as an actual human customer's experience. And I think that many of us think that is not always the case anymore.
I was spending some time with a reasonably wealthy person not very long ago, and they were talking about one of their business partners, cohorts, whoever it was, and their critique of them was that they spend more time in the court system than their net worth allows, right? And I think that's a case that's going on here. For this person, for executive roofing service to go after a homeowner for $100,000, spend all that time in courts, all this time with the attorneys, all this money with the attorneys, but then just the time alone, if you had spent that time and money on your business, you probably would have made more than what you ever would have expected to recover from that, right? And it's, I think to your point of egos in this industry is a lot of people that get into roofing that make it. Well, it's one of those American dream stories, right? They came from nothing and they got something from it. And I think they go, oh, I have money now. What do? I sue people, right? We see this a lot in our space. My job now is if I'm rich, I sue people. That's how I make money. And it's like, that is not an income stream of your business, nor should it ever be, right? And I think it's, to your point, 100% ego play to sue a tenant or a homeowner over review. And it's actually just a clear showing of character way beyond anything a 1-star review could ever do for you.
To Clay's point, I agree with both of you, but to Clay's point, reviews might not have the old weight, but we live in also interest media and social media, and your risk to be exposed and to go viral for your behavior online does have 10x more damage and effect to your brand, positive and negative. So if you go viral for something like this, guess what? This story happens years ago and people still remember. Because when you Google this company, that story will come up. It will come up probably 5 years from now, right? That review would be buried by hundreds and hundreds of reviews. But you going viral for any good or bad reasons will either catapult your business to the atmosphere or will bury you to the point where you will never financially recover from it.
Yep. And yet again, a common theme of our discussions on this show, Dimitri, when people get into these disputes, who wins? Who wins in the end? Those stinking lawyers win every single time. They get paid for years to litigate these cases, all this mudslinging back and forth. We saw that in multiple cases here where they end up everybody walks away with nothing, but the lawyers are the ones who filled their coffers. Just a good reminder. Watch out.
I also want to explain something to my business owners out there. Why it's never smart idea to sue someone who's smaller than you, right? We live in time where algorithm is everything, and engaging story is also a very polarizing story. When I published this story a couple of years ago, it was #1 story in our Facebook group, over 100,000 views in the first 30 days. And the reason was because everybody has something to say about it, right? So when you have this open conflict online, whether it's news coverage, whatever the case is, if people talking about it, it spreads like a wildfire. And if you're on the receiving end of it, you're gonna get way more 1-star reviews. So you're trying to bully one person to remove 1 star. Well, if that person is involved in the community and 100 people will come to defend, you're gonna get 50 1-star reviews. And now what you're gonna do? Now you're going to spend $100,000 to defend you. I guarantee you this business lost way more than $100K over this story alone.
A lot more than $100K.
Yes. Guys, thank you so much for being with us today. We'll be back next Saturday. Stay safe there. See you next Saturday.